Oh, hello. This is the Oh Hello podcast with John Whalen and just me tonight. I'll always try to be transparent with y'all and open with y'all. We've had some production issues. Working on getting those fixed. Just bear with us. There's great things coming in the future. And due to that, I'm kind of by myself tonight. But my main priority is the fans. I want to get content out to y'all. And I want to do this. I want to talk ball. One thing I'm really nervous about, I'll start off and tell this to you. I'm very transparent with y'all, so any feedback I can get will be greatly appreciated. Doing the show by myself, I feel like I'm not a good fit for it. I feel like I'm not good at it. So, give me the feedback y'all can. With all that being said, let's get into it. College football's finally back. Okay, we've been waiting all off season, and now we're finally at the point where we can stop talking about what could happen and start watching these teams actually prove it. And this is going to be a fun season because the preseason expectations are already through the roof. Let's look at the rankings real quick. You got Ohio State number 1, Oregon number 2, Georgia number 3, Notre Dame is number 4, Texas is number 5, and the defending national champions, Indiana Hoosiers, come in number 6. The Big Ten alone has 8 teams ranked in the AP Top 25. Ohio State and Oregon are sitting at number 1 and number 2. Indiana's number 6. USC is number 14. Michigan is number 16. Washington is number 17. Penn State's number 18. And Iowa's number 22. So, yeah, there's a lot to talk about. Today I got 4 segments. We're starting with college football chaos possibilities. Then we're getting into Heisman predictions. My third segment's going to be college football playoff. Do this a little different than what I planned. Doing this on the fly. I'm going to just name the teams, not necessarily where they sit, not necessarily who wins this game, wins the game. I'm just going to name the 12 teams that I have in my college football playoff. And then we're finishing today. Well, I'm finishing today with all 8 of my Week 0 Saturday predictions, including some scores that I know people are going to disagree with. So let's get into it, guys. All right, my college football chaos possibility 1. Texas starts the season with two losses. This one would have completely changed the landscape of the college football landscape. I'm not saying Texas is going to be bad. Actually, quite the opposite. Texas has won at least 10 games in each of their last 3 seasons, going 35-8 over that stretch. But look, this schedule. Let's look at this schedule. First 4 games: Texas Tech, Ohio State, University of Texas San Antonio, then Tennessee on the road. And that Ohio State game is not some distant September game that you can circle later. It's September 12th. Ohio State comes into Austin as the preseason number 1 team in the United States of America. Then 2 weeks later, Texas goes to Neyland Stadium to play Tennessee, who I believe still has the highest recorded decibel point ever recorded in college football history. I believe. I don't know if that's a fact. That's something I believe. I'm telling you right now. But here's my chaos scenario. Texas beats Texas State, then loses to Ohio State, beats University of Texas San Antonio, then loses to Tennessee. And, now you're 2-2, and suddenly the entire season just feels different because after Tennessee, Texas still has Oklahoma, Florida, Ole Miss, Missouri, LSU, and Texas A&M. That is not a schedule where you can casually lose games and say, "Well, we'll get them back later." You're not going to get those games back later. If Texas starts 2-2 every game, every game becomes a playoff elimination game. And that's why I think Texas is one of the biggest chaos teams to watch early. My college football chaos possibility 2, number 2, the Big Ten eats itself. They just straight cannibalize itself. The Big Ten does. Let's look at the preseason rankings. I've kind of went over this, but I'll go over it again. At the intro of my show, Ohio State number 1, Oregon number 2, Indiana number 6, USC number 14, Michigan number 16, Washington number 17, Penn State number 18, Iowa number 22. That's 8 ranked teams before we even kick off the season. All right, now imagine the 3 biggest teams. I think we all know who they are: Ohio State, Oregon, and Indiana. Imagine they all beat each other. Let's play the scenario out. Ohio State loses to Oregon. Oregon loses to Indiana. Indiana loses to Ohio State. Now you've got 3 teams sitting there with 1 conference loss. And then somebody like Penn State or USC gets hot. That's where this gets crazy. It gets crazy. I mean, we're talking about chaos. Because the Big Ten doesn't need 1 undefeated team. It could have 4 teams sitting at 10-2. And suddenly we're talking about conference standings, tiebreakers, playoff seedings, and who has the best resume. And remember, Indiana isn't just another contender. They're the defending national champs. They went 16-0 last season and won the national championship. All right. I've already spoke on Indiana. They're no longer the hunted. Indiana is now. They're no longer. Excuse me, that's backwards. They're no longer the hunter. They're now the hunted. Bear with me, guys. Bear with me. I'm trying my best here. I'm a little nervous. But so imagine the defending champion, Indiana Hoosiers, the Hoosiers, gets knocked off by Ohio, Ohio State. Then Ohio State gets knocked off by the Oregon Ducks. But the Oregon Ducks lose to Indiana. That's college football chaos, my friend. That's college football chaos. We'll be sitting there looking at that, and that'll be college football chaos. Take number 3 out here. So, Texas starts out 2-2. The Big Ten cannibalizes itself. How about the SEC eats itself alive? Then this could be very true. I'm not calling it because we went over an SEC episode. You kind of know where I stand with some of those SEC teams. But I kind of want to call it. This scenario actually playing out. But I'm going to stand firm on my predictions. But this could really happen. My beard doesn't look great tonight, does it? Anyway, everybody wants to put Georgia and Alabama in the playoff. Most of the time. I think Alabama's got the most disrespect I've ever seen them get. And I don't understand why. You know what? Let's put an upper deck in. Spit the one out. Man, I've been on it all day. I'm about to put a new one in. But let's look at the teams around Georgia and Alabama. The greatest college football team in the planet. Roll daggum Tide. Alright? So the teams around them are Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Texas A&M, Missouri, Florida. There are a lot of games in this conference where a really good team is going to lose. And don't forget about South Carolina. You know, they can. I believe they got the team that can beat anybody any given Saturday, and that's what makes college football great. But that's also what causes chaos in college football. Alabama, for example, though. Let's break this down even more. Alabama, for example, roll daggum Tide, has Florida State. Revenge game, if I say so myself. Georgia, they don't beat us. We're Georgia's daddy. Tennessee, we're not going to lose in Neyland. I'm sorry. I'm putting too much fandom into it. I know. Texas A&M, LSU, and Auburn on the schedule. Now let's look at Georgia. Georgia has Alabama, Oklahoma, Florida, Ole Miss, Missouri, and that team I named a while ago that can beat anybody any given Saturday, the South Carolina Gamecocks, among its conference opponents. So here's the chaos scenario. Pains me to say this, but let's play it because I got to talk about Alabama losing. I don't want to do that. But what if Alabama loses to Georgia and then drops another game to Tennessee or LSU. Interesting, okay? So that's something to think about. All right, let's add this on top of it. What if Georgia loses to Alabama and Ole Miss? And I do have Georgia losing to Alabama and Ole Miss. That's something I have, and I'm not going back on. Cause yeah, I have Georgia going 10-2. But suddenly you have two of the biggest names in the SEC, Alabama and Georgia, sitting at 9-3 or even 8-4. And now the playoff committee has a problem because now the question becomes, how many SEC teams are you taking in the college football playoff? If there are 3 SEC teams sitting at 10-2 or better, that's easy. But if there are 5 teams sitting around 9-3, and another conference like the Big Ten has 3 10-2 teams, now we're arguing about strength of schedule, ranked wins, road wins, bad losses, and conference championships. That's where the playoff picture gets absolutely insane. Okay? Insane. I mean, like rats. It's just crazy. And then my college football chaos possibility take number 4. A preseason heavyweight gets knocked off immediately. And not necessarily week 1, but I don't have to look very far for the game. Ohio State, Texas, September 12th. The number 1 team in America walking into Austin. Man, I wish Colin was here, dude. This would get him all clock locked and dialed. But let's imagine Texas wins, which I have Ohio State winning that football game. Now you got Ohio State starting the season with a loss. The preseason number 1 team immediately has no margin for error. Okay. Now Texas has to turn around and play Tennessee 2 weeks later. That's why that game is so important. It isn't just one game. It's a game that can completely change the way we talk about the playoff before conference play really gets going. And number 5, college football playoff chaos. College football chaos possibility. Take 5. Washington becomes the playoff spoiler. Yeah, I think Washington. I didn't talk about them as much as I probably should have in my Big Ten in our Big Ten episode, but um, Washington doesn't necessarily have to make the playoffs to destroy somebody's, not everybody, but somebody else's playoffs hope. Washington is number 17 in the preseason AP poll. And here's the matchup I'm watching. Penn State goes to Washington on November 7th. So imagine Washington sitting there 7-2 or 8-2 at this point in the season. Penn State comes in that game needing a win to stay alive in the playoff race. And Washington wins the game with Damon Williams Jr., who is a really good quarterback, could have the game of his life. Oh, man. And Penn State's playing on the road. But what happens after that happens? Penn State could go from talking about playoff seeding to sweating out selection Sunday. That's what I mean when I call Washington a spoiler. You don't have to make the playoffs to have a major impact on the playoff. I think every conference has got them. USC, if they're not in the playoffs, they can be that team. Washington can also be that team in the Big Ten. South Carolina can be that team in the SEC. Virginia Tech can be that team in the ACC. Yeah. So, and the Big 12's the Big 12's really, really competitive. So there could be some playoff spoilers in the Big 12. But you don't have to. You don't have to make the. I want you all to realize this, and this is something that I don't think about often. You don't have to make the playoffs to have a major impact on the playoffs. Sometimes you're the team that decides who doesn't get in. Like sometimes you come into that Saturday and you're more clock locked and dialed, and you keep a team from getting in the playoffs. Oh, you say, oh, that's not true. Ask Florida, playoff spoiler, Texas. Ask LSU 2 years ago, playoff spoiler, South Carolina. Just saying. Two. I didn't even plan on bringing that up either. That just came off the dome. But I'm gonna go ahead and get in my second segment, and this is going really, really better than I thought it was. I'm surprised that I was able to make that first segment last 15 minutes. So, you know, that's really, really went better than I thought it would be. Now let's get into Heisman. I'm going to start by saying something very clearly. Julian Sayin is my number one Heisman pick, and Deontay Moore is number two. Those are my two guys, and I know I could get some feedback for leaving Trinidad Chambliss out, and some feedback for leaving some other guys out. But my goodness, this is going to be predicting this Heisman Trophy race this early is insane. It could be so many guys. I've never seen it be this close in the preseason, which we're going into week 0 now. But I'm picking Julian Sayin because what he already did. In 2025, Julian Sayin completed 77% of his passes for 3,600 yards, 32 touchdowns, and only 8 interceptions. He also averaged 9.2 yards per attempt, finished with a passer rating of 177.75. And I went over it in the Big Ten episode. He was my number one Big Ten college football quarterback. I think he's the number one quarterback in all of college football. And here's the part that really jumps out to me about Julian Sayin. He led the entire nation in completion percentage. He also had 6 games with at least 300 passing yards. He wasn't just a good quarterback, he was a Heisman finalist. The official Heisman Trophy organization listed Sayin among the 4 finalists for the 2025 award. So I'm not asking, can Julian Sayin become a Heisman candidate? I'm not asking that at all. He already was one. Here's the question I'm asking. Can he go from Heisman finalist to Heisman winner? And Julian Sayin is my pick. This is exactly what I want to see from Julian Sayin in the 2026. Can he prove that last year's numbers weren't just because he was throwing to elite receivers? Because he had Jeremiah Smith, he had Carnell Tate. Now I do know he has Jeremiah Smith returning, but Ohio State does have to replace some of that production. That actually makes this season more interesting for Sayin. If he puts up something like 3,800 to 4,000 passing yards, 35 plus touchdowns, and single digit interceptions while leading Ohio State to the playoff, which I think he can do, that's a Heisman resume. And if Ohio State wins the Big Ten, which I do have them predicted to do, like I said, I was very high on Oregon. I have Oregon going undefeated, beating Ohio State in the regular season. But I'm talking about football. My dog's getting all fired up. But I do have them beating Ohio State in the regular season. Now, it's hard to beat a team twice. I brought up Alabama and Georgia references, Alabama and LSU references from the past on a previous episode when I was talking about this. So I do have Ohio State winning the Big Ten, and we're talking about a 12-1 Big Ten champion. But number 2, I have Dante Moore. Right behind him. I mean, it's neck and neck, and this is where I think the debate gets really interesting when it comes to Julian Sayin and Dante Moore. Moore threw for 3,500 yards, 30 touchdowns in 2025 with 10 interceptions and a 78.5 QBR. He completed 71.8% of his passes, and here's the important part. Dante Moore decided to come back to Oregon for 2026 when he was already viewed as a potential high NFL draft pick. He said his reason was simple. He wanted to win a national championship. That's the type of situation you want for a Heisman quarterback. He's on a national championship contender. He's already proven he can produce. And Oregon enters the season ranked number 2 in the country. So if Moore takes the next step and goes 3,800 plus yards, 35 plus touchdowns, better efficiency, and Oregon is playing in the national championship, he's going to be right there. I think Oregon could be playing in the national championship. I'm no higher on the team. I'm high on 2 teams. It's Alabama. That might be some biases. Roll daggum Tide and Oregon. I think Oregon is about to have a legend. Wait for it. What comes out of a cow? Dairy season. And I think Dante Moore is going to be right there. Now, the other Heisman names. See, I don't like, this is one thing I want to point out. Excuse me. I'm not used to doing all this talking by myself. Let me. But this is one thing I want to point out: the Heisman Trophy award has become a quarterback award, and I don't think it should be that way. But I'm not going to pretend it's a two-man race. But I'm not going to bring up other quarterbacks. I know I could bring up Trinidad and Arch and stuff, whose odds are very high on FanDuel as well. But I'm going to go another way and go to other positions. And there's some serious names behind these quarterbacks. First, Jeremiah Smith. Um, and let me tell you how to spell his name because I've seen people mess it up. Jeremiah Smith. Look, my dog's getting fired up, getting in the background. But that's how you spell Jeremiah Smith's name. I've seen people mess it up. Come on, we gotta do better, college football fans. But let me tell you what Jeremiah Smith done in 2025. I could bring up 2024 too, but I'll just go off the most recent season. He got 87 passes for 1,200 yards and 12 touchdowns. He finished sixth in the 2025 Heisman voting, and so he's already been there. So if he has another monster season, he has a legitimate argument. And then there's Ahmad Hardy. The dude had a ridiculous 2025, and I know there's a question about the gunshot wound, but I think that's being overplayed by the media. Let me tell you what he did in 2025. He had a legend. Wait for it. What comes out of a cow? Dairy season with 1,600 rushing yards, 16 touchdowns, 6 yards per carry average. He finished second nationally in rushing yards. He also had games where he ran for 300 yards and 250 yards. That's not normal production, okay? That's one thing we have to watch. There's one thing we have to watch in his health this season, and that's his health. At the end of the season, Missouri announced that Ahmad Hardy will miss the season opener against Arkansas Pine Bluff while we're coming from an off-season gunshot wound. And there is not yet a firm return date. So for the Heisman case, availability matters when it comes to Ahmad Hardy. But if he's available, I could see this dude in New York. And then there's Keywan Lacey at Ole Miss. And I think he's one of the names people could be sleeping on. Don't sleep on Keywan Lacey. Lacey ran for 1,500 yards and 24 touchdowns in 2025. That was third nationally in rushing yards and second nationally in rushing touchdowns. My dogs are all fired up. 24 touchdowns Keywan Lacey had. That's the kind of number that gets Heisman voters' attention, all right? If Ole Miss is in the SEC race, which I think they will be, and Lacey is putting up another huge season, which I think he will be, he has a legitimate path into this conversation. And then there's Malachi Tony at the U. Tony had 109 receptions for 1,200 yards and 10 receiving touchdowns in 2025. That's incredible production for a young player like Malachi Tony was. And Miami is expected to remain a major national contender, which I think they will be. So if Tony takes another step, which he can, especially with Miami fighting for the ACC, which I think they'll win their first ACC championship. I've said that before. And playoff, he's somebody I'd absolutely keep on the Heisman radar. Matter of fact, I would say he would have a legend. Wait for it. What comes out of a cow? Dairy season. Come on now. I'm fired up. I'm clock locked and dialed. And so if you ask me today, who is my Heisman favorite? I'm going with Julian Saying. And who is number two, you should ask? Dante Moore. Then I'm watching Jeremiah Smith, Ahmad Hardy, Keywan Lacey, and Malachi Tony. There's these guys who could crash that conversation. And here's the thing about the Heisman. It's not just about the numbers. It's about numbers plus winning. If Saying throws for 4,000 yards, but Ohio State goes 8-4. Do you think that he's winning Heisman? Probably not. If Saying throws for 3,800 yards, 35 touchdowns, Ohio State goes 12-1 and wins the Big Ten. Now we're talking. Now we're cooking. All right. Same thing with Dante Moore. Same thing with every other player on this list. The bigger the season, the bigger the Heisman case. All right. So I want to get into my third segment. Okay. And my third segment is the college football playoff prediction. Now, I plan to do this episode with Colin and Sean. Like I said earlier, I'm very transparent with y'all. We had technical difficulties. But we spent a good majority of the night getting those fixed, and we want nothing but good content to come to y'all. Okay, so I'm going to do it a little bit different than I planned. I was going to go game by game and break it down, but I'm just going to tell you the teams I got in there. First off, I want to say, roll daggum tide, Alabama. So there's one team. All right, then OHIO, Ohio State. There's two. Who am I going to put in next? Who am I going to put in next? Let's see. Texas Tech. There's three. I don't know. I don't know what the Red Raiders do. I heard I know they banned throwing tortillas, so I don't know what to say for the Red Raiders. The Oregon Ducks, number 4. And these are not rankings. I'm just listening, by the way. This is not how I think the playoff seeding is going to go. I'm not going to even get into that deep of it. But Oregon Ducks. Number 5, Hook 'em Horns. Give me the Texas Longhorns. So I got 7 more teams. Number 6, Ole Miss. Hotty toddy. Give me Ole Miss. Number 7, I'll throw up the U. Ooh. Give me Miami. Number 8, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. I know everybody wants to see Notre Dame in the playoffs. Oh, that might have been a rage bait. Number 9, Hoosiers. Give me Indiana. Number 10, what's that coming down the track? It's the Mean Machine in the red and black. There ain't nothing finer in the land than a drunk, obnoxious Georgia fan. Go Dogs! Go Dogs! Go Dogs! Sick 'em! Give me Georgia. Alright, 2 more teams, and I ain't named a group of 6 team yet. Number 11, BYU. And number 12, Sunbelt Billy leading the team, James Madison University, JMU. All right, let's get in our 4th and final segment, Week 0 predictions. And just to be clear, these are my predictions. I'm not trying to copy Vegas. I'm actually trying to be better than Vegas. Call me J Vegas. I just gave myself a nickname. That wasn't cool, was it? I'm not trying to copy another analyst either. I'm John Wayland Hollis, thinking about opening up my own show, the J-Dubs Oh Hello Show. That is a legit nickname called by people that know me. Plus the Oh Hello Sports Podcast Show with me and Colin and Sean. If you think this show is going very well, you gotta let me know. I think I'm the best analyst in the game, honestly. And I'm gonna get better. I have the potential to be the best. I need to humble myself. I got a lot to learn, but I'm giving you the scores I actually believe. That's all I'm saying. There are 8 FBS games on Saturday, August 29th. The slate starts with North Carolina and TCU in Dublin and ends with Memphis and UNLV in Las Vegas. So let's go. Let's get clock blocked and dialed. Game 1, I'm going over Florida State and New Mexico State. All right, I'm taking Florida State over New Mexico State. The final score will be 31-20. Now, I know what the spread says. Florida State is a massive favorite, roughly 30 points in the current market. But I'm not picking them to win by 30. I'm picking them to win by 11. Oh, why, you ask? I'm glad you asked. Because Florida State went 5-7 in 2025, all right? Including 2-6 ACC record, all right? So I'm not going to sit here and pretend this is automatically the old Florida State, that this is a Bobby Bowden Florida State or a Jimbo Fisher Florida State, if you will. I expect the Seminoles to win because they're at home and they have the talent advantage. But New Mexico State isn't coming in completely helpless. Let me tell you what the New Mexico State Aggies did in 2025. They forced 24 turnovers, including 15 interceptions and 9 fumble recoveries. Where did that come in nationally, you ask? 14th nationally. They had a top 15 defense in turnovers. So my prediction is Florida State wins. The offense shows enough. They got Deuce Robinson, but New Mexico creates some problems. Florida State 31. New Mexico State 20. Game number 2, Stanford and the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. Give me Stanford 31, Hawaii 17. I know some people are going to like Hawaii in this game, and I understand why. Timmy Chang has done a good job rebuilding that program, and Hawaii has become much more competitive. But I'm taking Stanford at home, and I'm expecting the Cardinals to control the game physically. And if you control the game, if you play good physical football, um, you're going to win the football game. But this is also a game where I think Stanford's ability to avoid mistakes matters more than trying to turn this into a shootout. So I'm going Stanford 31, Hawaii 17. Game number 3, Virginia, NC State. Give me Virginia 28, NC State 17. One thing I want you to get about this game, if you don't get nothing at all from me, this one's going to be physical. You're going to see good, smash-mouth physical football played. And NC State has a quarterback in C.J. Bailey that I think people are going to be watching closely. I know I am. I'm going to tune this game on Saturday, and I'm going to watch C.J. Bailey closely. In fact, some analysts are taking NC State, the Wolfpack, and the points because they believe Bailey gives the Wolfpack an advantage. And I think so too. I just think Virginia comes out of this game on top. I'm going the other way, all right? Virginia is favored in this game, and I'm trusting the Cavaliers to control the game enough defensively to keep NC State under 20 points. That's why my prediction is Virginia 28, NC State 17. All right? And then, game number 4, USC versus San Jose State. I'm probably going to get the most questions out of this pick, and y'all probably going to come at me. The people that come watch this podcast, come at me in TikTok Live, whatever the case may be. But I got USC 28, San Jose State 7. Why, you ask? Because USC is a massive favorite. The current line is around 38.5 for USC. But I don't think USC needs to score 50 points. I think they get ahead, control the game, and eventually take their foot off the gas. USC is ranked number 14 in the preseason AP poll, so I absolutely believe USC wins. I'm high on USC. I think I'm the only... Man, I don't know why people aren't talking about Gary Patterson enough. I just don't believe USC has to win this game by 40. So give me USC over San Jose 28-7. Eastern Michigan, Sacramento State. I had to do a lot of research on this game. These is two teams going into the prep for this episode that I really didn't know a lot about. All right. But we're getting into chaos. College football chaos with Eastern Michigan and Sacramento State. I got Eastern Michigan winning that game 36, Sacramento State at 33. This is my shootout, and I know this is a bold one. But Sacramento State is beginning its FBS era, and Eastern Michigan is going to have to deal with a team that has absolutely nothing to lose. I'm expecting Sacramento State to play aggressive. I'm expecting Eastern Michigan to make enough plays to win. But I think this game turns into a track meet, so I'm calling 69 total points. Eastern Michigan wins by a field goal, 36-33. Hey, I've passed 30 minutes on this episode. I'm doing all right by myself. Maybe I am longer-winded than I think. Maybe I just don't want this to feel like a lecture to y'all. You know what I mean? All right, so game 6, North Dakota State and Jacksonville State. I got North Dakota State 32, Jacksonville State, and I hate to say this because this is Alabama's college, man. The only Alabama team I want to see fail is Auburn. And they really don't even deserve to be in Alabama. They should be in Georgia. But that's beside the point. I mean, whatever. Now we have a little history, though, with North Dakota State and Jacksonville State. North Dakota State is beginning its first FBS season. And who do they get? They get Jacksonville State, a former FCS National Championship opponent. This is cinema, ain't it? North Dakota State University is hosting the game at the Fargo Dome. And this is one of the most interesting Week 0 storylines because we're watching a program that dominated the FCS begin its next chapter at the FBS level. and these two programs have history. They met for the 2015 FCS National Championship with North Dakota State winning 37-10. This time, I don't think it's anywhere near that easy. Jacksonville State has been an FBS program already. North Dakota State University is the newcomer. So I'm taking the Bison, but I'm making them earn it. Give me North Dakota State 31, Jacksonville State 28. And game number 7, UNLV versus Memphis. Finally. Got UNLV 25, Memphis 22. This is my favorite game on the late night schedule. UNLV is hosting Memphis at Allegiant Stadium, and this is the first meeting between these programs. You've got Dan Mullen entering year 2 at UNLV. You've got Charles Huff making his Memphis debut, and both teams have aspirations of being in the Group of 6 playoff conversation. We actually discussed that on the last episode. If you can, go check it out. Call me and Colin and Sean broke that down really, really well. This is not some random week 0 game, though. This could be an early resume game. I'm expecting this game to be close. I'm expecting this game to be physical. I'm not expecting a 40-35 shootout, though. I'm saying UNLV makes one more play. Maybe one more stop. Maybe one more field goal. And that's the difference. I got UNLV winning this game. I said 25-22. Let's make it more realistic football score. Give me 24-21. All right, so this is the game of the week. This is in Ireland. In my opinion, the game of the week. It's Ireland. I think it's the most highly anticipated game. And I may be wrong on that. Me and Colin were talking behind the scenes a little bit, and I think we had a little disagreement on it. But he brought up a very good point. I did not know that College Game Day wasn't going to be there, and that's kind of a bummer. But I mean, I think we'll get something. But this is my high scoring prediction of week 0. Give me TCU 42, North Carolina 28. And yeah, I know Bill Belichick is on the other sideline. The guy that I think is going to get fired before Halloween. This is his second season at North Carolina. And TCU is going overseas for the first time in program history. And the Horned Frogs are playing this game in Dublin, Ireland. I'm going to look a little Irish with this beard, don't I? But the current market has TCU favored by roughly 8 touchdowns. I'm taking them by 14. Why? Glad you asked. I think TCU's offense is going to be the difference. I respect Bill Belichick. I think North Carolina will improve. Should I say that? I think North Carolina will improve, but I don't think one offseason fixes every problem. So my question is, can UNC stop TCU when this game turns into a shootout? I'm saying no. Not a chance. Give me TCU 42, North Carolina 28. All right. That was all 8 games for week 0. So let's get into this. All right. So here are my official 8 picks. Florida State, Stanford, TCU, Virginia, USC. Look, the dogs are loving this. They get fired up when I talk about football. Eastern Michigan, North Dakota State, UNLV. Those are my picks. We'll see where I'm wrong. How I'm wrong. I am by Sunday. Let's wrap this thing up. That's the show. We talked about the ways college football could completely lose its mind in 2026. We've talked Heisman, and I've officially put Julian Say in the top of my board with Dante Moore sitting at number 2. Also, don't be surprised if Keelan Russell's in this mix for New York, man. Keelan Russell's a dog. He has a lot of mobility. I'm glad Alabama named him a starter. No hate against Austin Mack either when I say this. But I think this dude can put up some really, really big numbers. I think he can live up to the hype. He reminds me of a Jaden Daniels type quarterback. If you want me to compare him to another Alabama quarterback in the past, and I know a lot of Alabama fans might disagree with me, I feel like most of them will. I've talked to some Alabama fans, and they've compared him to Bryce Young. He just seems more like a Milroe guy to me, but to the higher ceiling, a little bit better. I think he has more potential than Milroe. But hey, Milrose's a Super Bowl champion. Don't forget that. Roll dadgum tide. But then, but yeah, Julian Sand, Dante Moore. Uh, I'm not going to leave Arch Manning out of this conversation. Trinidad Chambliss. Some other skilled positions. You got Malachi Tony, Keywan Lacey, Ahmad Hardy, Jeremiah Smith. I forgot him, man. Like, you can't forget about Jeremiah Smith. He's probably the best wide receiver in college football. So there's only one little thing left to do. Play the games on Saturday. Everybody looks smart in August. I've gave all my predictions. I look smart now. Can't call me dumb. Ain't nothing happened. The real question is who still looks smart in November. I'll be doing this show with Colin and Sean, and we can see who looks the smartest out of us three in November. And if this goes very well and I get good feedback from the people that watch this show, I may start my own. And maybe I'm making predictions on my own show, and it'll be on the same YouTube channel, possibly the same Spotify channel. That's something I got to figure out. But I'll be giving even more takes than that. Maybe even be covering more NFL if I do my own show. But until then, I'll see you next time. And I want to also say this. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube or the Spotify, please subscribe. It really pushes out the channel and it helps us out. Also, gives us 5 stars on Spotify. None of this costs you a dime. It gets this podcast where it needs to be. I'm trying to live a dream here. I'm trying to build something here. I'm here for criticism. I will take your criticism. I'm just trying to build this. We also, the Oh Hello Sports podcast also has an Instagram page, a Facebook page, an X page, and a TikTok. And also, I do post my own independent content on TikTok. So, maybe be posting some independent content on here if I get my own show, as well as Spotify. So just let me know all that. And if you can, give us a follow on the socials. But until then, talk to me. I'm going to talk back. You know how I'm going to finish it. Toodles!